Welcome everyone to Earth Rangers Live, a very special Tuesday edition of Earth Rangers Live. I am Earth Ranger Chris, as always, coming at you live from the Earth Rangers Center. Now today's live is extra special because we have some very special guests today. Today we're joined by all of our friends over at HSBC who are taking time out of their busy work schedule in order to watch today's live with their families. So hello to all of our friends from HSBC out there and welcome, welcome. Now today we have something very special planned for all of you. I'm going to be joined by my friend Earth Ranger Sadie, and today we have 3 animal ambassadors for you all to meet today. Now I'm part of the live productions team here at Earth Rangers. We travel all across Canada in a regular school year, meeting and teaching students about animals, the environment, and what they can do to help. And we're able to do this all through the support of organizations like HSBC. Now, one of our best ways of connecting with kids and getting them excited about protecting animals and the environment is through our animal ambassadors. You see, the great thing about being an Earth Ranger is everyone has a chance to make a difference. It doesn't matter if you're still in school or you're all grown up and graduated and studying animals in the field as a professional biologist. There's things that we can do in our everyday lives to make the world a better and a greener place. So before we get to meeting our animals, let me tell you a little bit about Earth Rangers for those of you who are hearing about us for the first time today. So Earth Rangers is the kids' conservation organization. We're actually the largest of its kind in the entire world. We have over 200,000 members across Canada who are kids, just like many of you watching today, dedicated to working together to protect animals and the environment. Now, for those of you who are just joining us today, hello everyone. I am Earth Ranger Chris coming at you live from the Earth Rangers Center. And a very special hello to all of our friends from HSBC. Now, today's live is, of course, interactive. So if you have any questions or comments for myself or Sadie today, make sure that you put that into the comment section. We'll get to as many of those as possible. If we say something that's super cool or that you really like, give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us that cute little emoji hugging the heart. That one's super cute. We'll be sure to see it as well. And of course, me and Sadie might have some questions of our own to ask all of you today. So make sure your ears are peeled and ready for that. All right, so let's get into it. Let's meet some of our animal ambassadors today. Now, our first guest today is Millie, and Millie is a coconut. No, she's not a coconut. She is a 3-banded armadillo. Now, I think we can all agree this is a very bizarre looking animal. At first glance, she doesn't really look like an animal at all, right? So my first question to all of you is, what group of animals does she belong to? Is she an amphibian? Is she a bird? Is she a mammal? Right now, when she's all wrapped up, she kind of looks like a little dung beetle or something like that. The shell, turtles also have shells. She might be a reptile. What do you think? Put it into the comment section what you think Millie here is. I can tell you that the word armadillo means little armored one. And this is a great name for them because as you can see, her entire body is covered in armor. She has 2 armored plates here and here that are connected by 3 bands made of skin. 1, 2, and 3. So this gives her the name the 3-banded armadillo. Now, does anyone know what type of animal she is yet? So if you think you know, just throw that into the comment section. All right, so Jennifer thinks mammal, Lisa thinks mammal, and absolutely you are correct. She is a mammal. Now, one of the ways you can tell right away that she is a mammal is by looking at the sides. Do you see that right there? So that is hair. And hair is something that connects all mammals. I have hair, dogs have hair, cats have hair or fur, and this helps to keep them warm. But for Millie, it serves another very important function. You see, this is the only type of armadillo in the world, the 3-banded armadillo, that can roll into a perfect little ball. Right here is her head, and right here is her tail. So when Millie here is all wrapped up, she is in lockdown mode. Nothing can get inside this shell. The shell is very strong. It's made of keratin, which is actually what our fingernails are made of, but it's just quite a bit stronger. And there's nothing able to break open or pierce into their shell. Maybe a jaguar, but they're probably not going to waste their time on such an animal that is so small. So these little hairs that she has sticking out the side, they serve a very important function. They actually act as whiskers, just like cats and dogs have. You see, when she's all wrapped up in the world, she can't hear, smell, or see all that well. Obviously, she's all covered up. So the only thing is that sticking out are these little hairs. Now, if she feels any little hairs on her, or she feels any movement on those little hairs on her body, she knows that there is an animal waiting right outside her front door that might be a threat to her. And so she'll stay all tightly wound up in her ball until she knows it's nice and safe to come out. So let's see if Millie wants to come out for us today. And we have a table set up over here where Millie can run around today. And she is a little bit shy, a little camera shy. So let's see if she wants to come out today. All right, you think about that. All right, so Millie is an insectivore. Now, an insectivore is an animal that, of course, eats insects or bugs. It's their favorite type of food. Now, they have a very keen sense of smell. In fact, their smell is so good, they can smell bugs crawling around underground. Things like ants, termites, grubs, which they will quickly dig up with the help of their claws. Now, their claws are actually so long, they go past the tip of their foot. Let's see if Millie wants to come out for us today. There she goes. A little bit shy at first, but there she goes. She's coming out. An armadillo coming out of their shell is a good sign that they feel nice and comfortable. She knows that there is no predators nearby that might want to cause her harm. So let me hold her up to the camera so we can see her open. And there she goes, all closed up again. Now you might see that she does have long claws. If you can see, they're actually so long, they go right past the tip of her foot. So when Millie is running around on the ground, unlike running on the pads of her feet like dogs and cats, she's running around on the very tips of her claws. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to run around on your tiptoes before. It's pretty difficult. Imagine running around on your claws. So that's what Millie basically does all the time. But having such long claws is very important because they act as gardening shovels. It helps her to quickly dig through the soil so that she can dig up some delicious treats. Now, in addition to this, they have a very long tongue as well. It's about 2/3 the length of their body, and they'll actually use it to slurp up multiple insects at once. If they come across a termite mound or an anthill, they'll stick it right down there, slurp up multiple insects at once. Very amazing and bizarre little animal for sure. Now, I did mention that if anyone has any questions or comments, they can go ahead and ask. So let me just quickly check and see if anyone is asking questions. So Laura, great question, Laura. She's asking, do their head and tail always point in the same direction? Well, let's ask Millie. Once again, the head and tail went into the same direction, and that's because they have evolved that way. She has a tight seal right now. As you can see, there is nothing that is going to get in there when she's all tightly wound up. Now, armadillos, they're kind of cheeky. They will actually leave a small crack open in their shell. And if a predator tries to pry them open, if a jaguar comes along, or maybe a curious little monkey comes along, sticks their finger in there, tries to open her up, she'll snap her shell really fast and give them a tight pinch. So that's a pretty amazing adaptation, and they'll definitely learn their lesson after that. All right, so how many babies do they go per litter, as asking Igna? Well, this is actually a great question. They only have about one baby at once. And what's super cute about this is their babies are they actually look exactly like them, but quite a bit smaller. They're about the size of a golf ball, and yeah, only one baby at once. How cute is that, right? All right, so I think that Millie here is all tuckered out, but it's time to meet our second animal ambassador. So we've already met a mammal that has a shell, but how about we meet a reptile that has a shell? So with that, please welcome Sadie, who's going to teach us all about Shelly.
Hello everyone, I am Earth Ranger Sadie, and I am so excited to introduce all of you to Shelly. All right, now Shelly wants to also give a special shout out to our HSBC viewers. And if you guys are still watching with us, make sure to send a thumbs up so we know that you are here to learn more about the animal ambassadors with us. All right, now Shelly here is a Midland painted turtle. All right, and they get the name painted turtle because if you look closely, Shelly has some beautiful orange, red, and yellow colors that look like they were actually painted on perfectly with a paintbrush. Wow, say that 3 times fast. Now, painted turtles are, Midland painted turtles are native here in Ontario, all right? So you can find them in rivers, marshes, wetlands, slow-moving creeks, and any kind of water body that has a muddy bottom and lots of aquatic vegetation. There also has to be a lot of logs and rocks so that these turtles can bask. These turtles will actually spend about 6 hours a day basking on logs or rocks and soaking up all the sun's rays to warm up. There have even been times where there have been turtles stacked one on top of the other because there wasn't enough room on the log or rock. That is, until the bottom turtle gets tired of holding up all of his friends, tilts forward ever so slightly, and kicks them all off. But when these turtles are not basking, they are looking for something tasty to eat. Now, Shelly here is what we call an omnivore, but specifically she is an opportunistic omnivore. So that means that Shelly will not only eat plants and animals like a regular omnivore, but she is not picky. She will actually eat anything that kind of floats her way that she thinks that she might enjoy. That can be things like tadpoles, fish, small frogs. She'll eat fruits and vegetables. She'll eat aquatic vegetation, algae. Honestly, Shelly will eat anything. And if you look closely, she will use her long claws and her sharp beak to rip and tear her food apart so that she can fit it into her mouth. Now, another cool thing about Shelly is that she can actually not move her tongue, like at all. So that means that Shelly has to eat underwater, all right? So that allows her to manipulate her food, and she can actually swallow water while she's swallowing the food, and that will push it down into her belly. Unlike you and I, we kind of use our tongues to help us swallow our food and push it down into our bellies. All right, so I have a question now for you. As you probably have noticed, Shelly has a very large protective shell, all right? And as you can see, it is very nice, it is very beautiful. Now, I have a question. Do you think that Shelly can come out of her shell? All right, so I'll give you guys a few minutes to answer. We'll see if Shelly can come out of her shell. In the meantime, I'll tell you a little bit about it. So she has these special plates on her shell called scutes, all right? And these scutes are made out of keratin, which is the same thing as our hair and our fingernails are made of, all right? So these scutes to help protect her shell and kind of, help protect it, and they're these special plates. So who thinks Shelly can come out of her shell? Well, if you said that no, she cannot come out of her shell, well, then you would be correct. Shelly is actually born with and grows with the same shell her entire life. It is actually part of her skeleton. So when people think that turtles live inside their shells, that's kind of wrong. Shelly actually is her shell. Now, some other things that Shelly has that are really important for swimming, I don't know if you can probably see, she's got these long, big webbed feet. I'm sorry, Shelly, to call your feet big, but they are. And they are webbed. And this allows Shelly to swim really well. She is actually very fast. And that allows her to maneuver through the water and also catch some tasty food. Another thing about Shelly that you may not know about turtles, but she does have a cute little tail right at the very back. And turtles also do not have any teeth. They actually have special plates in their mouth made of bone, and that helps her to kind of chew up her food a little bit before she swallows it. Now, if anyone also has any questions about Shelly, don't be afraid to type them in the comments and I will try and get to them. So another cool thing, Shelly, since she's native to here in Ontario, she goes through the same winters that we do. And I know you probably know that it gets pretty cold here. So Shelly does what some other animals do, and she will actually hibernate. But she doesn't dig a burrow like some animals do, and she wouldn't find a big cave, maybe like a bear would. Instead, what Shelly does is hibernate under the water. But that means that she has to hold her breath for all of that time. For the 4 to 5 months of winter, Shelly does not breathe at all. So that is longer than any other mammal, reptile, or bird can hold their breath for. So that is pretty amazing, right, about Shelly? Now, another cool thing about Shelly is that Shelly here is a turtle, but a lot of people think that turtles and tortoises are the same. And we've had a tortoise here on our Facebook Lives before, but Shelly would like to set the record straight. So Shelly here is a turtle, and the main difference between the two of them is that Shelly here is more designed to swim in the water. So she's got those webbed feet, like I already mentioned. She also has this more aerodynamic and lighter shell to help her swim through the water, or else she might sink. So she has got a lighter shell. But a tortoise will live most of their lives on land, all right? And turtles live most of their lives in the water. As well as tortoises, have longer legs that are kind of more developed to walk on land. All right, so I see some questions coming in. Kyla asks, how old is Shelly? Well, we think that Shelly could be about 20 years old. Now, in the wild, since these turtles have this hard shell, they are really good at protecting themselves. So not a lot of predators can get them. So even in the wild, they can live around 25 to 30 years. But in captivity, they could live up to 50 years old. So they can live kind of long. But yes, Shelly here is around 20. We think she could be 20 years old. Another question, Maggie asks, do baby turtles follow their mom around? Well, actually, that would be no. So when a female turtle is going to lay her eggs, she digs a hole, maybe at the side of a road or maybe in some soil somewhere, some sandy soil. She'll lay her eggs, she'll cover them back up, and then she leaves them. And that is the only parental care she has. She doesn't make them breakfast in the morning. She doesn't walk them to school, maybe like your parents do. No, their parents lay the eggs and then they take off. So Shelly would not follow her mom around. Once Shelly hatches, she will climb her way up out of her hole that all the eggs were laid in, and she is completely on her own. So she must find her way to a body of water as soon as she can to get away from predators. All right, so she does not follow her mom around. Now, let's see what else we have. How do you know she's a girl? Well, with reptiles and a lot of animals, and sometimes it's kind of hard to tell them apart. So one thing you can do is take a blood sample. That can tell you if it is a male or a female. But there are special things about these turtles. The first thing is that the females are usually larger than the males. As well, if you see Shelly's front feet here, so they all look pretty uniform, pretty nice. Well, the male actually has one of his claws that are really long. And that's another way that you can tell that she is a female because her feet are kind of all the same length. But a male has one really long finger. And what he will do is when he meets a female he likes, he will actually stroke her face with that long part of his hand. So that's kind of romantic. All right. Well, I see we don't have any more questions about Shelly. So Shelly would like to thank you guys for listening all about her. And she wants to introduce her friend, Finigan, to come out and say hello to you guys. So let's meet our third animal ambassador.
All right, thank you so much, Shelly. Now here we have our final animal ambassador. Let me just fit him in the frame here, who is, of course, Finigan the bald eagle. Now, I think we can all agree that this is a very large bird. So my first question for all of you today is, how much do you think Finigan weighs? How heavy is this bird that I have here on my glove? So if you think you know the answer, go ahead and type that into the comment section. Now, I can tell you that they are one of the largest birds that we have here in Canada. Definitely the largest bird of prey for sure. I can also tell you that Finigan here is 8 years old. So he is actually a juvenile and not fully grown yet. Now, he won't get any bigger than this. He is fully grown, but his coloration will change a little bit. So I'll move him a little bit closer. You might notice that some of the feathers on the top of his head are a little bit brown in color. Now, bald eagles are, of course, famous for having that white head. Bald actually means white-headed in Old English. It's what they're famous for. So Finigan here still has a little bit of growing up to do. So hopefully in a year or two, he will develop that fully white plumage on the top of his head, and his eye color will change as well. The adult bald eagles have bright yellow eyes, whereas Finnegan's are actually brown. So in about a year or two, those will change as well. I think he's going to be very handsome with yellow eyes. Now, I can also tell you that Finigan is not even as large as bald eagles can get, and that's because he's a boy. When it comes to bald eagles and most birds of prey in general, it's actually the female who's a lot larger because they have a much more important role. First of all, they need to grow the eggs inside their body. It takes a lot of room to grow eggs inside your body, so that's why they need a bigger body. As well, they also do a majority of the work when it comes to protecting the eggs and eventually the young. They need to chase away predators. So typically the males will be a little bit smaller than the females. So Finnegan's actually a small guy. All right, so let me just look at some of the guesses that we have here. All right, so Kyla guessed 100 pounds. Kyla, that's a very high number. Chloe said 7 pounds. Pamela said 55 pounds. Lisa said 10 pounds. Lisa must know a thing or two about birds because she is absolutely correct. She's close. He is just under 10 pounds, believe it or not. Now, Finnegan here does look like he could weigh a lot more, right? This is a massive bird that I have here on my glove. But like many species of birds that fly, he has hollow bones. In addition to this, he has feathers all over his body. Not only do they help to keep him nice and warm all year round, but they are important for flying. And having hollow bones are important for flying too, because they help to keep him nice and light. Now, I'm not sure if you've ever seen a bald eagle flying around in the wild. It's an absolutely majestic sight. But typically, you don't see them flapping their wings. Usually, they have their wings right up to the side like this, and they're soaring just like an airplane. So they don't have an engine that's keeping them running. What they're doing is actually what's called thermal hopping. So hot air rises, and it rises in columns. So what a bald eagle will do, as well as other types of birds of prey, like turkey vultures, is they will find these columns of riding air. By spreading out their wings and fanning out this huge tail that they have, this huge white tail that he has, all he has to do is go on top and just like a kite, ride it all the way up. Now, once he's at the top, he uses his incredible vision to look in the direction that he wants to go. They can see about 8 times better than we can, which means if Finnegan here could read, he would be able to read an entire chapter book, probably the entire Harry Potter series, from the other side of a football field. So once they've spotted what they want to eat or where they want to go, they'll start to soar down towards it, slowly getting lower and lower, closer to the ground. When they're almost at the very bottom, when they're almost on the ground, all they have to do is look for another rising air column, ride it all the way up like an elevator, and continue on with their day. Now, like I mentioned, when they're up there flying around in the sky, typically they are looking for food. Now, Finnegan's favorite type of food is fish. Bald eagles love to eat fish. They are actually fish catching specialists. The bottom of their feet is rough like sandpaper, perfect for snatching fish right out of the water, but they are not very picky eaters at all. They will actually eat a variety of different stuff. They'll eat different mammals like rabbits, foxes, other predators like foxes. They can catch reptiles like snakes and lizards. They will eat other types of birds like waterfowl, ducks, geese, and they will even eat carrion. So a carrion is basically another animal's leftovers. It's meat that's rotting out there in the wild. Now that doesn't sound very tasty. I personally wouldn't want to eat rotting meat, but for bald eagles, it's essentially a free meal. And they have very strong bellies that are able to eat this food without getting sick. Now, bald eagles are less wasteful than people as well. They tend to eat a lot more of the body. Now, when we're eating ribs or chicken wings, anything with a bone, we throw the bone out, right? Our teeth aren't strong enough to eat the bone. Well, Finnegan actually has a very strong beak in order to crack these bones. And his beak is actually made of keratin. Now, if you think back, keratin is what Shelly's shell is made out of, Millie's shell is made out of, and it's also what our fingernails are made out of. And just like our fingernails, their beaks are constantly growing. So by biting down on things like bones, it helps to trim them, keep them nice and short, because they don't really have a file out there in the wild where they can just cut that down to size. Now, like I mentioned, Finnegan is one of our animal ambassadors here at Earth Rangers, and in a regular school year, we're traveling all across Canada, meeting and teaching students about animals, the environment, and what they can do to help. Now, we do this all with the support of our friends, our supporters, just like our friends over at HSBC. Now, one of my favorite reasons for using Finnegan for lives and events like this is because bald eagles are one of Canada's most successful conservation success stories. You see, it wasn't that long ago that we almost lost this amazing bird here in Canada due to a dangerous pesticide called DDT, which we were putting into the environment to keep pests off of our crops. Now, it wasn't that long before the DDT got into the bald eagle's food chain and was causing them to lay eggs with shells so thin that when parents went to sit on their eggs to keep them warm, they were cracking. So with very few bald eagles left in the wild, it wasn't long before their population plummeted. But we as Canadians came together to take action. So DDT was banned from Canada and the United States, and eventually it disappeared from the environment. Captive breeding programs were hatching and releasing bald eagles back out into the wild, and finally nest protection programs were put into place to ensure that wild bald eagle populations would not be disturbed during their breeding season. Now I see that Diana has said, oh no, but do not worry, bald eagles have actually been able to make a full recovery here in Canada. They've actually been removed from the endangered species list, and their populations are thriving and even increasing. This is something that we as Canadians should be very proud about. And it's basically what being an Earth Ranger is all about, working together to protect animals and their homes and making a difference for all the incredible creatures that we share our planet with. All right, so let me ask some questions or answer some questions here. All right, so Vandita is asking, why does Finnegan look like he's frowning? He's not in a bad mood. He's actually in a great mood. He had a big old turkey leg for lunch. He's feeling great. But they actually have what's called supraorbital ridges. We have supraorbital ridges as well, but his are quite a bit larger. They're so big that it overhangs the top of his eye, actually shading his eye from the sun. Hawks have this as well. It does give these birds a very stern appearance. It looks very serious, but it helps to protect their eye so that they can hunt in the daylight all day long. All right, so Diana Shaver is asking, how long do they live for? These birds actually have quite a long life expectancy. They've been known to live upwards of 50 years. Now, like I mentioned here before, Finigan is just 8 years old. So in bald eagle years, that makes him about a teenager. And that's why he doesn't have his fully white head yet. He's still growing. So Finigan clearly still has some growing up to do, and he'll have plenty of time to do so. All right, so let's see what else. Some more questions here. He's such a beautiful animal. Thank you, Diana. Does Finigan like to eat ribs? Asked Kyla. Well, absolutely they would eat ribs. They are scavengers, meaning sometimes they'll come across animals that are much larger than them. Animals that they probably couldn't catch alive, but they will scavenge anyway. Now, these birds are actually infamous for eating beached whales in the British Columbia, where you commonly find them. Beach whales are quite a bit larger than bald eagles. A bald eagle definitely could not catch a whale on its own, but once it washes out onto shore, it's pretty common to see huge groups of bald eagles surrounded around a corpse and chowing down, basically. And they have very strong beaks that are perfect for ripping apart the hide and having themselves a snack. You stretching? Okay. And also to crack the bones as well. So to answer your question, yes, they would absolutely eat ribs. Okay, I think I have time for one more question. All right, someone said girl power, absolutely. All right, so we have a question, how big are his wings? So let's see those across, that came from Sadie. So as you can see, his wingspan is over 2 meters long. Look at Finnegan showing those off. Now, these are absolutely amazing wings, perfect for soaring over great distances. But like I said, this isn't even as big as they can get. Let's show that off one more time. Perfect. All right, so that about does it for Earth Rangers Live today. Thank you so much for joining us today. And an extra special thank you to all of our friends at HSBC for taking time and spending time with your families to watch today's live. Thank you very much for joining us today. Now, if you're interested in becoming an Earth Ranger, if all this sounds amazing to you, you can always download our Earth Rangers app, our brand new Earth Rangers app, which was launched earlier this year. You can find that on Google Play or in the App Store and download it and get started protecting animals today. One of the best ways to get involved is by symbolically adopting an animal through our wildlife adoption programs. And you can adopt animals like the western bumblebee, the red fox, the Arctic fox, the osprey, just to name a few of my favorites. And Finnegan's gonna poop. Nicely done, Finnegan. And this week we're actually focusing on the red knot. Now the red knot is a fascinating and adorable little animal. I highly suggest that you go check those out. We have plenty of activities on our Instagram, on our Facebook page, and something extra special. On Thursday, we will be interviewing a red knot expert. Shelly and Sadie will be back to interview that expert. Sadie loves birds and Shelly loves the shoreline, and these birds are all about these two things. So definitely be around to check those out. All right, so thank you again so much for joining us. We will see you next time. Bye, guys.